So, I want to talk for a few minutes about New Age ideas and spiritual abuse. And what is New Age? Does anyone know? I think it's actually a marketing scheme. I mean, I really think that's probably how that got started. Is it the age of Aquarius? I mean, I mean, people doing spiritual work are different personality wise. What are you doing? And I was asking myself if there's anyone I would offend by talking about this, but I can't let myself care, really. I mean, and I really don't think so. I mean, I think it's important. When people come to someone, when people go to someone who does spiritual work, it's very often a person in distress. Something, they might be in an abusive relationship. I mean, I saw that plenty. They might be recovering from, you know, trauma of different kinds. It was not uncommon to see that in the shop. So, you know, when I first put myself out on LinkedIn, I put myself as a spiritual counselor, and then I thought, well, I'm not sure that that's going to be interpreted the way that I want it to be, so I'm putting clairvoyant. I think that's what I did. And then I put artist because I got aggressed on for that. Yeah, it just kind of doesn't really end for some of us. It doesn't seem to, and it's like I do wish that I would build up strong enough defenses to where when someone crosses that line, they really feel it. I don't know. I don't know if that's possible, um, but I think about these ideas, and there are things that I do think can be helpful for a person. When a person is kind of, you know, there are things that aren't going well, and a person needs guidance or something to think about. But it's some of these ideas that I think are really wrong. You decided before you came down from your star walk. You knew what you were gonna do. You knew what you were gonna take on. You knew, that's bullshit. I mean, I really think so. I think that's wrong. It's wrong. What happens sometimes is a person uses an idea like that and says you are responsible for everything that's ever been done to you, everything that's ever happened to you, and that's who thinks like that. An abusive person thinks like that. A person that really needs some work done to help them repair their thinking process and perhaps emotionally some, help in that area too. Um, I mean, I think that idea, I don't, I do not study religion. One of the things that I think is interesting is to look at religion and where it is in history together. In this part of the country, there are things. Yeah, that I see that. I see that history, but and I'm sure that's true everywhere. Uh, but is it Calvinistic doctrine? It was predestined. I don't really happen to believe in predestination, and but when you take something like that I think that is possibly a real rigid way of thinking, and it also might keep people, trapped in whatever social or economic or both kind of circumstances they're in. If you have like a Calvinistic doctrine and you mix that up with some pretense of being spiritual, yeah, I mean, that is a mess. And when did it get started in this country? How did it get started? Again, I think about New Age as being a marketing kind of scheme. Yeah, let's just call it New Age. We don't know what else to call it. And, of course, I'm not dismissing spirituality, things that people do, and there's a lot that falls into that realm where those words might be used. It's like, yeah, I mean, I understand that, but what I am talking about really is abuse of ideas, abuse of spirituality, and abuse of people with spiritual abuse. So, yeah, I mean, spiritual abuse that could happen in connection with religion too. I was thinking about the boarding schools, and Catholic boarding schools where abuses were rampant, and um, and and yeah, I mean, there's plenty that could be said, but I'm thinking more about these ideas that fall under the sort of, domain or category of New Age, and what is that, and those ideas can be abused extremely badly. You were never supposed to exist, or you knew you had it all, blah, you made, I mean, really, what is that? There's a whole lot that humans don't know and maybe can't comprehend, and great mystery and things like that, and spirituality, of course, but when people abuse those ideas and justify abuse with those ideas, and that's like the idea of karma. I mean, and what does that do? It reinforces, is that culture? I mean, it reinforces socioeconomics. I mean, and I don't even want to go off on this thing of like, is there this and is there that? It's just important, I think, to pay attention to abuses that occur under the guise of spirituality. And yeah, so, just wanted to talk about that for a few minutes. Most of the time, we do not make the choice to be harmed. If sometimes we are, trying to protect someone, then we might take on harm, but most of the time, yeah, please, and yeah, you're right. That's in my star chart. That's when I was walking in the sky, and yeah, I don't think, it's is it flaky? I don't even know. I mean, and having done readings for several years, and and having respect for people who do that work, there are things that I think are real important to be careful about. A person being abused, who's been abused, things like that, and saying, yeah, well, no. Or some people more mature than others at birth. I don't know about. I don't know. I mean, we could talk about mystery, mysteries of spirituality, but yeah, just thought I'd talk about that for a few minutes.